The next command we will use is called create database. This command will create a database to store required data. Another command is use database. This command will opt a database one wants to use to store data. Now let's go and execute these commands. Let's assume we are on a server. And here from our previous command, show databases, we can see on the right hand side that there are 4 existing databases in our server. Information schema, MySQL, Sys, and performance schema. Now let's say we want to create our own database. The database we will use to create our tables and the database we will use to work with. To do so, we need to use the create command. And how we write it is create database. And since a database needs to have a name, we need to select a name for that. Here I'm selecting sports underscore shop with a semicolon at the end. And here you can see once I select this create database command with the name sports shop and hit on execute, we have sports shop database created on top of our 4 existing databases. Now, in order to be able to create our table in this sports shop database, the newly created database, we have to be inside it. For this purpose, we need to write the use command. So we will write use sports shop, the name of the databases with a semicolon at the end. And once I hit on execute, I will be inside the sports shop database. This is the database we are working in right now. Here we'll write all our tables and store all of our data. Now let's go back to the workbench and write the same commands over there. Okay, we just saw create database command. Now let's try typing it in here. So I will write create database and the name of the database I just created, which was sports shop. And don't forget the semicolon at the end. Once I select the single line and hit on the run button, I can see that there is no error, which means our command ran successfully. Now to check if our newly created database is created and it is in MySQL list, I will type in show databases with semicolon, and here I can see that Sport Shop database is added to my 4 existing database in the server. Now let's try the use database command. And I will type in use followed by the name of the database and a semicolon at the end. Okay, so before that, let's write another command, select database. This command will actually show us which database we're working in right now. So to do that, I type in select database with open and close parentheses and a semicolon at the end. Now I select this line and hit on the execute button. Now we can see that there is null, which means we are not inside any database. So to go actually inside our database, we select use sport shop database, click on the run button. Then now if we go in and type in select database with the same syntax, open and close parentheses and semicolon at the end, and hit on run button, you can see that we are inside our database that we just created, which is a sport shop. Let's move on to our next topic, creating tables in SQL database. If you remember, we learned previously that we can divide a computer infrastructure into two parts. And the first part is front end. You might have seen a page similar to this one so many times that consists of a couple buttons along with a few fields to fill in. For example, for creating a profile on a website. This is basically what you see on your computer screen. When you provide your information under all these categories, for example, first name and last name, in this form, all that information has to go to the backend through the process we already explained in the schema presentation. And that information will be eventually stored in this database. These are relational databases, and it means there should be a table to record all this information. This table should have a name. Here, the name of our table is customers, for example. Also, this table should have columns, and these columns will relate to this form and fields. First name under first name, last name under last name, address for address, and phone under phone. This one line will be called a record, and that one line record will be the information of a single client in this table. So, for example, if you have hundreds or thousands of clients, all their information will be recorded in this table through the same type of process of filling the form and the input getting stored in this table here. This is how tables in the backend relate to the front end in the database. Now, let's go to our demo board and learn how to create a table in MySQL. The next command we're going to learn is create table. The syntax is to write create table, as you can see on this slide here. Then we have to write the table name, then open parentheses. Here inside the parentheses, we write our first column name and its data type, then our second and third columns, as well as their data types, and so on and so forth, depending on how many columns we have in our table. Then close the parentheses and put a semicolon at the end. Now let's go and try this on our demo board. Let's assume we have the sport shop database. And now we want to create a table with two columns inside this database. The first column is name and the second one is age. To do this, we need to use create table command. So I'm going to write create table, and since my table needs to have a name, I need to type in customer, which is the name of my table here, followed by a parenthesis. Now here we have to explain what is the first column. Give it a data type followed by the character limit. My first column is called name, and the data type I'm selecting here is varchar, and the character limit is 50. Now, what is a varchar? Varchar is actually a data type. Whenever you write a name which takes alphabetical characters, we will have to use varchar. That means we can use a variable number of characters. Here, for example, from 1 to 50. So from 1 up to 50, we can fit any number of letters into here. Okay, then the second column in my table is age. I need to type in comma in between. Then I type in age. The data type is int and close the parentheses. Int stands for integer, which means a number. It can be any number like 10, 15, 20. And at the end, I close the semicolon. Now, when you run this command, you will see this table being created as a result of it. Now let's go to command prompt and try running the same command in Workbench.